It's a revolt led by youngsters.
The U.S. House easily passed a bill calling for the sale of TikTok.
On Wednesday, the House of Representatives passed a bill that could ban TikTok.
Stop the ban.
Teens and young adults across the nation are rising up to save TikTok.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Hannah and today we're talking about the TikTok ban. So actually the reason why I wanted to do this video is because I wanted to understand more what this whole TikTok ban thing is about, what is the background, and what are the different interpretations or discussions that people are having about it and around it. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really follow this because I thought it would not happen. And it honestly really humbles me because it reminds me of 2016 when I thought Donald Trump will never be elected. So clearly, I know very little about whatever is going on in the United States. But all jokes aside, I do think it's very interesting to kind of dig a bit deeper into what this TikTok ban means, why did it happen, and what is next. So most of the information that I will be sharing here is based on a newsletter from a social media researcher whose work I really like called Dr. Jessica Maddox. And then other things will be more my opinion. And I find it very important to say this because I'm not an expert in this. I'm much more of an expert of like media culture rather than like politics or platform governance and data protection and things like that. So I don't want to sound like I'm buying into any conspiracy theory, but I want us to stay critical of what this ban might mean. So let's start with the facts. On the 13th of March, the US House of Representatives voted on a nationwide TikTok ban. And if this passes the Senate, then President Joe Biden already said that he would sign it into law, meaning that TikTok will be banned in the United States. What does this really mean? Not that all of a sudden the TikTok app will like disappear from all US-based TikTok users' phone, but it means that new downloads will not be possible and then all the updates will not come. So essentially over time, TikTok will kind of lose its position and its meaning. So why was it so important for US politicians to ban TikTok? Well, what we know and what they argue is that TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, is a Chinese business.
Of what nation are you a citizen?
Singapore.
And that is it. That is the problem.
Have you ever applied for Chinese citizenship?
Senator, I serve my nation in Singapore.
The concern is that since ByteDance is based in China and China is an authoritarian regime, the government there has the power to control ByteDance as a business, and they may require ByteDance to give them user data or to maybe spread information on the app that is not desirable by a country like the United States. What is very interesting here is that, of course, this whole data protection framework is very important for us, but this has happened before. I mean, we know about Cambridge Analytica.
Facebook is scrambling to contain the fallout over a data privacy scandal.
This was a major breach of trust, and I'm really sorry.
It happened with Meta or Facebook. Privacy concerns and data protection concerns are always a very big part of any like social media platform. This is not new. What new here is where is that data stored? And the problem here is really just that it might be stored in China.
Congresswoman, I have seen no evidence that the Chinese government has access to that data. They have never asked us. We have not provided.
Well, you know what? I find that actually preposterous.
But actually, we know that most of TikTok's data is not stored in China. TikTok launched an initiative. They spent billions of dollars on something called Project Texas, where they tried to prove that the data is stored on US soil and there is no government interference.
And in order to assure everybody here and all our users, our commitment is to move the data into the United States to be stored on American soil by an American company, overseen by American personnel.
Clearly, this was not very successful. Of course, there's also a whole political, like US political angle to this, or like conflict in this, because Trump tried to ban TikTok previously.
So it'll close down on September 15th unless Microsoft or somebody else is able to buy it and work out a deal, an appropriate deal, so the Treasury of the Treasury, I guess you would say, of the United States gets a lot of money.
And it was ruled unconstitutional, and now it might be possible, while Biden actually used a lot of TikTok campaign to reach voters. So there are a lot of tensions here in that regard, but this is definitely, I'm not an expert of. I just wanted to pop this information here that obviously there are a lot of different layers and angles to this story. What I think that is very interesting here to discuss is, let's say, 4 angles. There is the geopolitical angle that I am not an expert of, but it's definitely very, very crucial. Then there is the whole economical and creative industry angle that I can comment on a bit more. Then thirdly, there is also the media and information angle. And then fourth, well, what does this mean for us as TikTok users? So starting from the geopolitical angle, I'm definitely no expert in this, but I think that this ban, if anything, really shows us that there is a huge interest in controlling this kind of power on how can people be reached. And millions of people can be currently reached via TikTok. The fact that this is a Chinese company is a big geopolitical problem for the US. I have read some opinions about this, but it's really not something I know too much of. But there is definitely an interest here that the US doesn't want the Chinese government to be able to reach such a big audience so easily. If I recall correctly, there's about 150 million US-based TikTok users. That's a lot of people. Then secondly, we have the whole influencer industry, creative economy angle that I think is extremely crucial here. So Jessica Maddox in the newsletter says that the creator economy, so this industry of influencers and brands reaching audiences on social media platforms, of which TikTok is undeniably a huge part of, is a $250 billion industry. This means that a lot of people's livelihoods are dependent on platforms like TikTok, either directly or indirectly. Of course, there are a lot of just, let's say, influencers or content creators who directly make money off of having a visibility on platforms like TikTok, and their futures and work situation and income is completely dependent on whatever happens to a platform like this. And then there are, of course, also brands and just a lot of companies that rely on TikTok and the millions of people that use TikTok on a daily basis to sell their products and services. So TikTok is a very big part of our everyday kind of communications and marketing world. So it is a very big part of businesses' operations. And while of course we have seen that platforms were popular and then their kind of era ended. But this is very different, in my opinion, from what has happened before, because previously it was, let's say, a natural migration from platform to platform. So let's take the example of Facebook. Facebook was like the biggest platform, and then naturally people started to migrate to other platforms, and at the time that was Instagram. And there are kind of generational differences. There are also what we call affordances, so differences in what these platforms can offer to the users. But let's say, very simply put, young people populate a platform, and then older generations start to go on to this platform. So young people migrate to a new platform, and then these older generations follow them, so they go again. And this is what like the Facebook, Instagram to TikTok pipeline is. But this happened naturally. And now with TikTok being banned, this kind of natural flow or migration will change. And we don't know yet what is the next platform. We don't see it yet. So now, not only there's an opportunity for a new platform to come and take the place of TikTok, but there's also an interest in, will these creators and users go back to Instagram or go back to YouTube or Facebook? I would be shocked, but let's see, maybe it's the case. So there will be, I kind of predict, sort of a panic mode where a lot of TikTok creators will now go back to like Instagram or YouTube. They will make a lot of Instagram reels and a lot of YouTube shorts to try to kind of build a following there and keep their brand and their work. But it's very important to realize that all of this content creation, what I'm doing here right now, is a lot of work. Of course, for me, it's totally different, but there are a lot of people who have a livelihood based on this, and it's a lot of labor. And it's not only just the hours you put into creating content and editing and whatnot, but it's also a lot of labor to get to know your audience and to learn to use the platform to its fullest potential, so you can keep engaging with your audience, so you can build your following, so you can make money off of it. And it's not just that I can make a TikTok and then upload it to Instagram and it will do well. It's just simply not how it works, because there's not only a whole different culture on different apps, but it's actually the app itself rewards different types of behavior. So what might have worked in TikTok might not work on Instagram. And it's also not guaranteed that your followers from one platform will also follow you on another one, because as users, we also use platforms differently. I personally consume very different type of content on YouTube than what I do on Instagram. So I don't necessarily follow the same influencers on the same platforms. So this kind of shows that for the whole influencer economy and marketing, and so for a lot of businesses, this is going to be a very difficult period to bridge. And of course, a US ban doesn't mean that the platform is banned everywhere, but of course, we know that businesses and US-based internet culture is extremely strong. So even if we can use the platform, for example, here in Europe, a lot of the information and a lot of the brands will disappear or operate very differently. So we will also migrate from the app, most likely. Then thirdly, it's about the control of information. And we have kind of evidence of this.
Foreign adversary control of what is becoming the dominant news platform for Americans under 30.
It's actually not only about where data is stored, but also who can reach people. And since 150 million or something US citizens are on TikTok, a lot of people can be reached with information.
This is a common sense measure to protect our national security.
And this might be fake information, or this simply might be information that those in power don't really want you to have access to. And this is also kind of a concern of many researchers who look at TikTok as a platform for activism, for mobilization, for flow of news and media. That is, of course, on the one hand concerning in terms of its veracity, if it's true, if it's not manipulated. But at the same time, a lot of the information that we know, for example, from conflict zones, is really from TikTok. There are a number of studies that looked into the kind of political potential of TikTok. So for example, with the Russian invasion in Ukraine, a lot of the information comes from videos that are shared on TikTok. I don't want to buy into conspiracies, but I do think that it is concerning that the US basically wants to control media and information flow. They want to basically have people going back to mainstream media platforms to get their information. And well, that is about power, and it's about who has a say in what is going on in the world. And then fourth, what does it mean for us as TikTok users? Even if you're not on TikTok, it doesn't matter, because a lot of the entertainment, a lot of the news, a lot of internet culture and pop culture comes from TikTok now, and it will end. And I think that on the one hand, there are a lot of horrible things about TikTok, and I think a lot of people, and especially young people, are really struggling with how TikTok is built, and it's extremely overwhelming, and it's really difficult to put it down. And I don't want to paint TikTok as this fantastic digital utopia that will be missed, because I think it's also fine if it's gone. But at the same time, I am also personally a bit sad that a lot of the funny and entertaining things that I experience online that is based on TikTok will be kind of gone. But here, I think we can be hopeful that there will be a new platform and new memes and new things that we can enjoy. But what will happen to the lip syncing challenges and to the dance videos? We shall see. So I'm very curious, what do you think about the TikTok ban? And do you actually use TikTok? Will you miss TikTok? And what is your prediction? What will be the next big platform? I've been saying this, and I will say it here because I'm very curious if it will come true, and if it does, then I can refer back to this video. I think that social media has like sped up and everything became shorter and snappier and more edited, and I think we're a bit overwhelmed. So even without TikTok ending, we will actually go back to long form content. And it's not just to toot my own horn because I'm doing YouTube videos, but I do think that there will be a new wave of YouTubers and short films and more longer formats. Yeah, that is my prediction. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was interesting and you learned a bit about the background of what is happening with TikTok. And I will see you next week in the next one.